Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping headfirst into a future that honestly might feel like pure science fiction, but I promise you it's rapidly becoming science fact. We're looking at this incredible convergence of neuroscience, AI, and human augmentation. Basically, we're going to explore how brain-computer interfaces, or BCIs, are projected to fundamentally rewire the human experience.
So to really wrap our heads around this, I want you to step into the shoes of a hypothetical character. Let's just call them Alex. The year is 2035, and I've got a question for you that completely flips our relationship with technology upside down. What if your next smartphone wasn't in your pocket, but actually integrated right into your brain? For Alex, the idea of carrying around a little rectangular piece of glass and metal, it's as outdated as, using a rotary phone would be to us today. The interface isn't something Alex holds in their hand. The interface is Alex.
Just look at the stark difference between our current reality on the left and Alex's world in 2035 on the right. Today, we're all walking around, staring down, tapping on glass screens, completely bottlenecked by the physical speed of our thumbs. But Alex operates completely heads up. Turning on a camera, browsing the web, or organizing a daily agenda, it all happens instantaneously with a mere thought. Research projections even highlight that Alex might have custom neural networks acting as virtual neurons directly linked to their brain. That effectively gives them a superhuman working memory. It's wild to think about.
And this completely transforms how we connect with each other. Take communication, for example. In 2035, typing is entirely dead. Welcome to the era of synthetic telepathy. When Alex wants to message a friend, there's no linguistic middleman. They don't have to take a complex feeling, translate it into clumsy words, and then type them out. Nope, Alex just thinks. And the BCI facilitates this direct brain-to-brain transmission of their stream of consciousness. It's high fidelity, it's instantaneous, and it is entirely intuitive.
But, society didn't just wake up one morning and start drilling into skulls to get to Alex's seamless reality. The bridge to this full neural integration was actually paved by high-density, non-invasive EEG systems, kind of like these sophisticated wearables. These devices monitored cognitive states and brainwaves right through the scalp, so they really normalized the whole idea of mind-machine interaction long before actual surgical implants became the accepted standard for ultimate convenience. Now you might be wondering, if Alex is processing the entire internet and getting telepathic messages all at the exact same time, wouldn't their brain literally just melt? Well, that brings us to a super important concept: cognitive load. This is basically the total amount of mental effort actively being used in your working memory at any given second. If we just dumped all that raw data straight into Alex's brain, their cognitive load would skyrocket. We're talking massive stress, extreme fatigue, and a complete crash in performance.
To really emphasize why this matters, let's look at this incredibly insightful quote from BCI researcher Pex Terfessen. He says, essentially, our brains have limited processing capacity, and exceeding that capacity leads to diminished cognitive function. Keeping the cognitive load low is crucial for a comfortable BCI experience. So basically, a BCI can't just be a dumb, passive wire. It has to be incredibly smart. It has to act as a reactive, highly adaptive system powered by machine learning, brilliantly shifting all that burden of mental strain away from Alex.
So how does it actually do that? Well, to actively manage this cognitive load, Alex's implant uses a closed-loop architecture. It operates in these three continuous steps. Step 1. It is constantly reading Alex's neural state, feeling out if they're starting to get overwhelmed. Step 2. The onboard AI instantly computes the optimal intervention. And Step 3. It delivers a corrective stimulation. This means it might automatically filter out background data, or subtly adjust sensory inputs, or even modulate brain circuits to enhance memory exactly when Alex needs it most. It's like this continuous, invisible dance between biology and machine. And the most crucial thing to understand here is the sheer speed of this trajectory. Take a look at this timeline mapped out by industry projections. Back in 2024, we saw the first basic neural cursor controls. By 2035, right where Alex is, we entered the phase of whole brain interface paradigms. But the roadmap certainly doesn't stop there. By the year 2050, futurists project full neural-digital symbiosis. That's a state where the boundary between human biological cognition and artificial general intelligence, or AGI, basically dissolves altogether.
Okay, but let's pause for a second. Because in any good explainer, we have to look at both sides of the coin, right? We really need to pivot from this utopian vision of tech telepathy and absolute convenience to something much, much more complex. Think about it. What happens when an AI is intimately linked to your subconscious mind?
This right here is the dystopian shift. It's the moment when ultimate convenience actually starts to threaten genuine human autonomy.
Let's break down some of these unseen risks, because they are profound. If an AI is constantly reading your brain states, and we're talking about states you aren't even consciously aware of yourself, it could subtly nudge your choices for commercial gain. You might experience what's called choice blindness. You'd think you actually wanted to buy a certain product or feel a certain way, when in reality, the AI induced it. We also have the truly terrifying prospect of adversarial neural stimulation. Yes, that essentially means brain hacking. And over time, as the system continually redrafts the boundaries of yourself, we face the blurring of continuous personal identity. At the end of the day, where does Alex end and the algorithm begin?
And then there is the massive barrier to entry, $50,000. That is the staggering upper-end estimated upfront cost of a fully invasive BCI implant. And keep in mind that 50 grand completely excludes the surgical, medical, and post-operative expenses. It is, quite literally, a luxury price tag for a biological upgrade. Which naturally leads us to something called the neuro divide. See, this isn't just about who has the nicest phone anymore. This is about the creation of a biological class system. If only the absolute wealthiest elite can afford to be cognitively augmented, to have superhuman memory, instant learning, and perfect emotional regulation, where does that leave the rest of us? All of our conventional notions of meritocracy, fair competition, and equal opportunity, they could be rendered entirely obsolete overnight.
Because the stakes are just so incredibly massive here, lawmakers are actually already scrambling to design safeguards against these ethical threats to protect people like Alex. To combat neural privacy erosion, we have the Chile model, where Chile actually became the very first country to enshrine neuro rights right into its constitution. To fight autonomous AI modulation, experts are proposing mandatory cognitive kill switches, just to ensure there's always meaningful human control. And to stop AI agents from exploiting users, the leading proposed solution right now is something called a fiduciary AI legal framework.
Let's define exactly what that means, because it's an absolute game changer. Fiduciary AI essentially treats the artificial intelligence in your brain a lot like a trusted lawyer or a doctor. It is legally obligated to act solely in the best interest of the user. It dynamically tailors privacy safeguards, meaning highly sensitive subconscious signals are strictly protected. Most importantly, it guarantees the system won't just prioritize corporate engagement metrics over Alex's mental well-being and personal identity.
Now, before we wrap up, it is definitely worth taking a quick look at how the market is scaling to even reach this future. While Alex's world of 2035 relies heavily on invasive surgical implants, back in 2025, the revenue share was completely dominated by non-invasive EEG tech at over 58%. The commercial reality is that accessible, wearable tech is what paves the way. It builds the necessary public trust and establishes the software foundations long before the average person is ever going to consider getting brain surgery for a tech upgrade.
So we've looked at the incredible, honestly almost magical capabilities of synthetic telepathy and superhuman memory, but we've also weighed them against the very real risks of a neuro divide and the massive erosion of cognitive privacy. It all really brings us down to a deeply personal choice as we march toward 2035. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to think about. Would you trade the absolute privacy of your inner thoughts for the ultimate convenience? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the future.